Hi, everybody. My name is John DePietro.
And I'm Bob Zagami with the Camper Report Show.
Bob, tonight I'm going to be talking to two people that call themselves one. I'm going to talk to Mike and Susan, who are the RV blogger. How about you, Bob?
Well, I'm going to have Mike Sokol, who is the most famous RV electricity genius in our industry. And he's got a wealth of information about RVs and electricity.
It's going to be an electrifying show.
Yeah.
Two great topics, plus all the news from our friends at RV Business in Woodall's Campground Magazine. All coming up right here for you, right here, Bob. Where are we?
On the Camper Report Show.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Camper Report Show. My name is John DePietro, along with Bob Zagami, and we have so much news from our friends at RV Business in Woodall's Campground Magazine. And Bob, one of the first stories that we want to talk about tonight is a very interesting statistical report. It's a survey of Class B owners, just like right behind me, you see a couple Class Bs. Tell people what Class Bs are and how they are just growing in popularity too.
Yeah, this particular section is this survey was from a very larger survey that RVIA did and Go RVing earlier last year, and they've been releasing certain sections of it. Class Bs are the smallest of the motorhomes, those and camper vans. So this encompasses the people who buy them, how they use them. It's one of the fastest growing segments in the RV industry today. And there's a lot of good data in here. And surprisingly, when you think about Class Bs and camper vans, we still have a lot of dealers in the country who are not selling them, it's not a niche product anymore. These things are flying off dealers' lots, and most of the time you'll see them configured on a Mercedes-Benz, the Ram ProMaster, or the Ford Transit chassis. And they are hot, let me tell you.
Well, I mean, hot isn't the word, because we have been to shows where, I say 10 years ago, where maybe you saw one or two at a show. And now there are shows being staged across the country that are Class B shows only. And just to show you how far they've come, I mean, they only own 4% of the market, okay? But they're growing. They're growing certainly faster than the old big Class A's, which used to command, a large segment of the motorized markets. But they're used primarily in the summer. 73% use them in the summer, and they only use them, interestingly, 21 days of the year. And 56% of the owners, this is their vacation. So it's not a huge piece of equipment by any means. And one of the reasons people like it is because many of these people that own these also use them as a second car. So it's not just for camping purposes, but because they only take up a single parking space, you can go to the food store, you can go to the the home goods store, that type of thing. Just getting bigger and bigger, huh?
Well, we think also it's going to be, you'll probably see a higher than average increase in sales this year, because with the shortage of automobile chips and people not being able to get the cars that they want, especially pickup trucks and SUVs, they are going to look very seriously at a camper van, which doesn't cost much more than a car.
Yep.
So they will continue to fly off the lots, and they have no place to go but up. You're right, 4%, and we see them selling out on dealers' lots. We see them at the shows. That leaves them 96% more to grow. So they've got plenty of room to grow, and if you see one, you better grab it. Yeah.
And you just said the term, so many places to go. Well, studies show that 51% stay at a state park, 52% stay at a national park, and only 43% head to a private campground, which is kind of, again, the reverse of the Class A owners. And these people, they're young families. 42% are young families, millennials and Gen Zers, and first-time owners are getting into it. Talk about how COVID has kind of changed the market and why these units are so popular.
Well, they're at the entry level, number one, so a lot more people can afford them. But also, most of them are equipped for boondocking. They've got lithium batteries. They've got rechargeable systems. They have solar panels, so they don't need a campground, and the majority of people that buy them are not your typical camper. That's what I love about this particular segment of the market, because it's growing and expanding the demographics of everybody that uses an RV. So they are more likely to take them out for the weekend, take them 3 or 4 days to go hiking, go fishing, go into the mountains, do some rock climbing. So it's a whole nother dimension to the RV lifestyle. And as people, again, look at this as a second car and say, look at everything else that we can do. Yes, we can, because all three of them get excellent mileage. The Ford Transit is available on a gas and a diesel chassis. The Ram ProMaster is just a gas chassis, and Mercedes is just a diesel chassis. So you've got many options for them, and you can get these anywhere from 65,000 to 200,000. Actually, the largest Airstream Atlas, which is really, I'd call that a Class C, but some of the Airstreams are getting up around $200,000. So you can have luxury or you can have basics.
Right. Now, you segued very well. I think you're in Florida. I'm in Massachusetts, but I think you were looking over my notes, because the other story that I wanted to talk about is the fact that, you said the Class B people like to go off grid because they have the solar and they're adventurous people. They're not sit around. Their main activity is not sitting around a campfire, their main exercise. These are people that are hikers. These are people that are mountain bikers and that type of thing. Well, our friends at Grand Design and Volta Power Systems have combined forces for a off-grid towable, okay? And I'm going to read this report directly from RV Business. Grand Design Recreational Vehicles has tapped Volta Power Systems for its newest offering of off-grid towables, the first available to mass market RV buyers. Now, the interesting thing is that this new product, which we'll talk about in just a minute, was introduced to the general public, not in an RV show, but at the SEMA show, an automotive show in Las Vegas, which is a huge one. The system offers up to 18, a whole bunch of kilowatt hour, whatever it is, in energy storage.
a lot of electricity.
A lot of electricity. You can run an overnight air conditioning, entertainment, and other high draw appliances. This is serious stuff, because now the people that may have 2 or 3 kids, they can take all that equipment with them and still go off grid, where before they were, restricted to a generator. Talk about that aspect of.
Yeah, you're right. And what's interesting about this, and it's a great concept, and you're going to see a lot more because of the affordability and the flexibility of these alternative power systems. This first system was on their Momentum toy hauler.
Right.
But we all know toy haulers are not just for toys. There are people that use them as warehouses when they go out and sell products at RV rallies. People set up an office on the road. They might do their homeschooling in that garage area and decorate it. You may have quilters. So there are so many other applications, and this also gives them the ability to go boondocking. So not in the ways that a 19 or a 22-year-old might do it, but certainly in the ways of different lifestyles, different requirements, and not be dependent on a campground. And, every week we hear complaints about not enough campgrounds. Well, you're going to see these types of systems. We have them on Class A motorhomes now. We have them on Class C, but you're going to see a lot more of them now because, again, the technology, the affordability. So it's another whole wave, and it's going to bring a lot of other people into the industry and the lifestyle.
Yep, exactly. And speaking of more and more people coming into it, we read so often lately about mergers and acquisitions within the RV sales companies, people, dealerships, that type of thing. But there's 2 other ones coming up with Lazy Days and Funtown. They're not acquiring right now, but they're building their own stores. Talk about those 2 companies.
Well, it's very interesting. Well, actually, one is an acquisition and one is a new store. Lazy Days announced that they're going to build their 3rd store in Florida, which of course is where they started many years ago in downtown Tampa, and then expanded to that tremendous complex that they have in Sefner, Florida. But they're going to build a new dealership that should be open by the end of the year in Fort Pierce, Florida. And that's on the East Coast. So they're very well known on the West Coast, but at Fort Pierce, they're going to be 120 miles from Orlando, and they're going to be about 120 miles from West Palm Beach in Miami area. There's a lot of money and there's a lot of RVs in those areas. So people, will have some more options on the East Coast. Funtown is the largest towable dealer in Texas with 14 locations right now. And they did acquire a dealership up in Illinois. Anna, Illinois. They acquired Tri-State RV, which gives them a presence that they had not had before. So they're down here in Texas and they got a presence up top. But they also at the same time announced that they're going to build or acquire 15 more locations in the next 2 or 3 years. So as you said, every week somebody's buying somebody and growing. And, we're going to have to keep a chart. So when we come up on the show, we'll just put the chart up and say, RV retailer owns this many, Camping World owns this many, Campers Inn's got this, Lazy Days has this, General RV has this. So we should do that. We should come up with a scorecard every week and say, this is where the acquisitions are.
Yep. And the interesting thing is the growth is taking place in areas that are already big, and these bigger dealers are getting bigger even more because they already have the name out there. I mean, Lazy Days, you don't have, when you think of mega dealers, one of the first ones you think of is Lazy Days because they were the biggest at one time with one location, but now they're branching out all over the country.
Yeah.
And, the amazing thing is the product keeps selling. So the dealers will keep expanding. So
many options, so many categories within a market segment, and so many options from budget, entry level to luxury within each of those segments. You can see why people are, busting down the doors to acquire people or build no locations, because we're expanding greatly the demographic base of RVs.
So that's the story on the news. All good news. All looking at what do they call those hockey stick growth
charts. Growth charts. Yeah.
Everything's going great, and we will be right back with 2 great stories right here
on the Camper Report Show.
Stay with us, everybody.
Mike here from RV Blogger. Don't waste hundreds of dollars on an external GPS for your RV. All you need to do is download the RV Life app right onto your phone. This app is so cool. It has RV GPS built right into it. So you can load all the specific measurements and weights for your RV. It'll give you directions safe for your RV to follow. And by the way, if you have RV Trip Wizard, directions for your trips upload into this GPS automatically.
All right, welcome back everybody to the Camper Report Show, and my special guest this morning is Mike Sokol, probably, without a doubt, the best RV electricity expert in the RV industry. Mike, welcome to the Camper Report Show. Glad to have you spend some time with us this morning.
Well, Bob, thank you very much.
Well, for the folks that may not know you, and we have a big consumer base, they may not even know that there's such a thing as RV electricity that consumers should be aware of, things that they should know. Give them a little bit of your background.
I've literally done electricity forever. I'm self-taught, and from the very beginning. So about 4 years old, I started diving into this, playing with batteries and light bulbs I dragged out of my Lionel train. My uncle taught me to solder when I was 5 or 6. By the time I was 8, I was trying to build a perpetual motion machine in the basement, which did not work, or we would all be in plenty of energy. But I did start playing in my own. I was a musician. I was one of those guys. My mom said I could play before I could talk. So I would always just toddle up to the piano and play, but I used that to start building electronics for my own bands when I was 14, 15 years old. Then I actually went into college for mechanical engineering technology, and then eventually electrical engineering. In the 70s, I worked for Corning Glass doing robotics design. In the 80s, I worked for Angstrom Precision building and calibrating nuclear guidance systems. And through the 90s to the 2000s, I was hooking banks into the Federal Reserve System before there was the internet. So I've done electrical stuff forever, and I've been teaching RV electricity for about the last 10 years or so, because I was always the safety guy in at Corning. And also when I was doing these big rock shows, I was always the guy hooking up generators and tying things together. And some of my colleagues were getting shocked off of tour buses and wanted to know why. I took a deep dive into that. That's
Well,
why I'm here.
well, it sounds like you've been doing it as long as Thomas Edison.
I don't, well, maybe not that long, but my dad was a history teacher. My mom was a nurse, actually an emergency room nurse. So it was a good thing. There were a few eventful accidents here along the way, but yeah, I've done it forever.
So was it the tour bus incidents that got you interested in RVs and things that roll down the street and have all this electronic stuff on them?
It did. I'd been camping since I was a little kid, been by the time I was 16, in a Cox pop-up camper, we were through 40 states and half of Canada. But my friends talked about getting shocked. I went and looked online. Everything that I looked at appeared to be either confusing or incorrect. So I started looking around for a guy to help me, and I found Gary Bunzer, the RV doctor. Talked to him, and he said, you need to start writing about this because you really, really understand it. And so that's how, he basically mentored me into the whole RV business.
Well, you've also turned it into a book. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Right. Yeah. So I had started doing a series of weekly articles for RV travel. And the initial idea was I was going to just do one, 1,200 word article all about electricity. And I said, oh, no, much more than that. So give me at least a dozen spots. So I had done a dozen of these things. Then I turned it into, due to popular, people asking me about it, I turned it into my RV electrical safety book. And that sells 100 to 200 units every month now. So it's that's been really, really successful.
We're gonna put some pictures of it and the ordering information on down below. What is the most vulnerability that RVers have by not understanding even the basics of the electricity in their motorhomes or their travel trailers?
I think the biggest issue is, in your bricks and sticks home, you had an inspector come in, they tied you into the power transformer, and there you are. You're probably good. However, for your RV, you could be in a different power grid every week, every day, whenever. And you basically have to become your own advocate and understand if you see something dangerous that you're plugging into, what to avoid, how to keep it safe. And many of the RVs that maybe if you bought a used one, it might have been worked on by some DIY guy years ago doing something that would be dangerous or substandard. So you really have to become almost your own electrical inspector just to understand enough when to take it to a professional and what you can do yourself.
You mentioned an interesting word, inspector, and I know that you have recently begun to work, or you're going to very soon be working with the RV Technical Institute in Elkhart, Indiana, because they don't have electrical programs of the magnitude that you could develop. Tell us about how I know it's recent, but what are you going to be doing with RVTI? How is that going to benefit consumers and certainly the technicians at our dealerships?
Well, RVTI basically is in charge of all of the training for RV certified technicians around the country. They have 3 levels of this training, level 1, level 2, and level 3. They've already got level 1 and 2 in place, but level 3 gets to go into the complicated troubleshooting parts of electrical systems, which this is my forte. This is what I do. So I had found that Gary Bunzer had actually shepherded a lot of of my articles and everything to them before he unfortunately died 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. And so consequently, it looks like I'm certified. So I will be able to offer, high level RV technician level 3 classes, which they will be able to get what they call educational, what is it? ECU, continuing educational units.
Education units, yeah.
Them things. I guess I got to learn the acronyms.
Those very important numbers, right?
Oh, that's how they keep their certification. They have to do so many hours per year. Looks like I'm now totally certified to teach that. I'm going to start doing those both online and let's say at the regular seminars that I'm doing, let's say in Boston or Seattle or wherever I go. do a regular class during the day, but in the evening, it looks like I should be able to offer several like 3-hour classes for technicians. And what that means for you, the consumer, is you're going to get a technician that understands troubleshooting a lot better, rather than just plugging in parts and hoping that it fixes it, which is sometimes, if you don't know how to troubleshoot, that's all you can do. But, I go through the nitty gritty of, how electricity works and, all of the new systems in RVs. And I got to tell you, this borders on rocket science on some of these things, how these RVs are built. So technicians need all the training they can get. And I'm really, really happy that RVTI now has accepted me as instructor for level 3 electrical.
Well, you also said another very important word is the troubleshooting aspect of it, because wouldn't you agree that many of the problems that consumers face when they go to dealerships, if the technicians are not trained in the electrical systems, especially the solar panels, the lithium battery connections, the multi-layer systems of entertainment on top of each other, they could spend days trying to find something, but they don't know what they're looking for. So this aspect of adding this type of training is going to be a tremendous asset to the dealerships, which then works its way down to the consumers, because they're going to have people on staff that can handle it.
I think you're absolutely right. And what this does, without training, this delays your repairs by weeks or sometimes months. You could lose a whole RVing season because the guy doesn't quite understand it. Number of times I've been called in to go look at things after they've all given up, and I figured it out in an hour and showed them how to do it. So, but you have to really understand not only electricity, but all the electrical systems in an RV to be able to do that. And I've been a teacher, I'm an adjunct professor, at Shenandoah Conservatory, teaching, advanced mixing and, audio electronics. And I've done, hundreds and hundreds of seminars around the country, not on RV related stuff. I've seen taking somebody that just wants to learn and teach them how to troubleshoot. And it's really, really interesting to watch them do this. They are now empowered to become quicker fixes. And none of these shops want your RV to sit out there for weeks or months while you're complaining. They want to fix them and turn that thing over and get it out the door. So it's in their best interest that their technicians are trained.
Right. Well, I know when we had you in for the Boston show a couple of years ago, it was standing room only, and they had you in the hall for about an hour after. So there's a tremendous thirst of knowledge. It's not that people don't want to do things. They don't know how to do things. When all of a sudden they find somebody that can teach them, they're really thirsty for more with their questions and answers. So as we look at the next year ahead, you've got your book. Consumers can certainly look at the book. You're available for various RV shows around the country. You're available we're going to work a program with you for the New England RV Dealers Association, where we're going to bring you in so that you can do technical classes for the technicians. What other ways might people see Mike Sokol in the next year or two?
I've also been pretty successful over the last year because everybody was kind of locked down from this, but I've done perhaps a dozen or so of my RV electricity seminars just as Zoom sessions for a specific RV rally. So, just a little group. I just did one that was really interesting a few weeks ago for, it's like ham radio RV owners. These guys running around with ham radios and RVs. Taught an hour and 15 minute class for them. And I've done a pile of those. So, if you have one that a group or whatever, whether it's a show or, even something that's, only 30 or 40 people are going to show up. It's hard to afford to fly me across the country for that. But, I can sit in at my desk here and do the same program. I have overhead cameras. As you've seen, I've got all of these demonstrations that show how this works. And then it can be recorded so that your own members can watch it over and over again. So that's another thing.
Yeah. So something like FMCA chapters or Escapees chapters.
Yes.
They could have a Zoom meeting and have their coffee and tea and cookies and put you up on the screen.
All the other thing, and one of the good things is I actually teach audio video production at college level. So my audio should be pretty good. Video should be reasonably good. You know what I mean?
Well,
I work hard at that, because if I goof up that, my audio production colleagues, I never hear the end of it. They go, heard that little buzz or hum or distortion. I'm going, oh, how embarrassing. But I like teaching it like this. It works well.
That's great. If the teacher has a problem, we all got a problem. All right. Our guest today has been Mike Sokol, RV expert, RV electricity expert, author, speaker, trainer. Mike, I want to thank you very much for jumping on here at the Camper Report Show, and we look forward to seeing you back in Boston in January 22, and hopefully some of the other RV shows around the country.
Very good, Bob. Thank you for having me, and hope to see you on the road or virtually.
We will. Thanks, Mike, very much.
Thanks.
I'm Jesse from Outsiders Calling, and I love adventurous family travel with my wife Jenny and our son Tucker.
For over 3 years, we've RV'd across the US and Mexico, and it's tough to find places that meet all our needs.
Now we plan our trips with the RV Trip Wizard, pull it up in the RV Life app, select it, and go.
It helps us discover amazing new places to grow together as a family.
RV Trip Wizard with the RV Life app is an awesome trip planning combination.
You can get both for one low annual price. Check out rvlife.com to learn more.
Hey, it's John DePietro. We are at America's largest RV show. We're in Hershey, Pennsylvania. This is the Camper Report Show, and we are talking with Mike and Susan. Susan's over there, but we're going to make her make a cameo. Come on, Susan.
Come on, honey.
Look at
There she is.
Susan is the more integral part of this combination.
Absolutely.
But she's playing the behind the rolls scenes today. And you know what? You are the RV bloggers.
We
I
are.
should say the RV blogger, right?
We are.
.com.
Yeah, RV blogger.
Okay, and people envy your website and your YouTube channel because you got what, almost 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah, we're very, very fortunate. We're
Right.
pushing 100 now.
And you've got videos, Bob. Let Susan take a picture here. You're
You're in
taking
her
all
way.
her space.
There you go.
Okay, so the reason we're here is because, like you do on your YouTube channel, you go around and you check out new RVs.
Yep.
And it's the largest show in America.
Yeah.
And a lot of people here, we're hearing, don't even own an RV yet.
Correct.
So let's assume that you're doing a video that says these are units that have new innovative features. What have you been able to find so far that fits into that new, innovative, and gotta have it category?
Well, I think one of the newest features that are coming out on RVs right now they are coming equipped with solar packages. And in the past, we never saw that, or we very rarely saw that. What we saw was they might be pre-wired for solar, but then you had to figure out, what solar panels do I need? Do I need an inverter? What are all the electronics that I need? How do I hook them all up and make it work? Yeah. And so we're seeing
buy
more.
a whole bunch of components to
yes,
make it all happen.
and you have to figure it all out,
yeah.
right? You have to figure it out because you buy different components from different manufacturers. How do you know what works with each other and what doesn't? So now we're seeing big players like Keystone RV is the one we were with this morning, and
yeah.
they are selling every one of their RVs now with a 200-watt solar package standard. And it's a fantastic setup in my opinion. It's very, very user friendly. You can upgrade it to a 400 or a 600 or even a 1200 watt, and they have all the packages laid out, easy to understand, so you can know that your whole system works well together. It's just a great program they have.
And do you think the rise in solar got a lot to do with the number of people that aren't necessarily into camping or campgrounds, but want to do the the boondocking or get into an area where there's not hookups?
I think what's happening is that the industry as a whole is moving away from propane powered refrigerators and furnaces and all kinds of things that we find inside the RV, and they're moving to all electric. And so solar is going to play a huge role as the industry transitions over to no propane powered in campers and motorhomes.
Yeah, exactly. And so many of the units here, like you said, are coming with that already installed, and that's so very important for that. For that person. How about for a rookie? Somebody doesn't own an RV, but you know, they've been COVIDed out.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do hotels and airplanes and trains and buses.
Yeah.
So they're RVing.
Yeah.
Anything that you've seen that you could say is a good starter product for them to look at?
Well, the first thing I would say is this. We meet people at the show all day long, and they're looking at trailers, and they don't know how much they can tow. And so the first place to start is, what vehicle do you have, and what can it tow behind you? If your vehicle can tow, you know, 4,000 pounds, we recommend you only tow up to 80% of that amount. So you're really only going to be able to tow a max of 3,200 pounds. So number two is that limits you, yeah. And so when you're looking at campers, if you look at the unloaded vehicle weight, which is what they all predominantly show, that weight is not really what you should be looking for, because when you load in all your supplies and water,
that's an empty weight.
That's an empty weight.
Yep.
So really you need to find something lower than that, so that when you fill it up with 700 pounds of stuff, then you're at that max weight.
Just water itself is 8 pounds a gallon.
8 pounds a gallon, yeah.
So if you've got a 30 gallon tank, you know, and then you've got your full tanks, and then you've got your clean tanks, and then your gray and your black tanks.
Right.
That all has to be
And you have
taken
all your groceries and chairs and grills and charcoal and lighter fluid. I mean, it all adds up in weight a lot. So, you know, for a new person, that's the place to start. And then from there, go with a smaller camper that's easy and light to tow, easy to set up. And if you can, I would even suggest going with a Class C motorhome, because those are the very easiest to park, set up, and you know, you're done. I mean, we can set up our Class C RV in 15 minutes.
And easy to
Piece
say
of
that
cake.
because you own one, and I own one, and we're Class C fans. And you know what? You don't have to, when you compare a Class C with a travel trailer, there's a lot less leveling, there's a lot less other things that you have to do in order to start enjoying it. And the thing that people want to do is to get to the campground or get to their campsite and enjoy as soon as possible.
Oh, absolutely. Who wants to get into the big fight with your wife while you're trying to back the camper into the camper? We see it all the time.
We've seen those all the time, especially now, folks. If you're new campers, you know what I mean. You can tell the newbies by the yelling that goes on between
it's hilarious.
the two people that are backing it in. And I know some wives that have now said, look, I'm backing this thing.
Right.
Have him go back there and
we just saw that the other day.
And do the other thing.
Yep.
So we want to thank you so much. Now, tell us your website tell us your Facebook page, because I'm sure that you're going to be making several. You've already made several videos here in just a couple days you've been here, right?
Yeah, we're shooting video like crazy. And so, you know, it's RV Blogger on the YouTube channel. It's RV Blogger for our Facebook page.
RV Blogger singular.
Singular.
Even though you are RV bloggers.
Well, I write all the blogs, so I am the RV
She does all
blogger.
the work to make it look good.
Susan makes everything look great. She does all the graphics, she shoots everything, she edits all of our videos. She's the real brains behind the operation. I can just blab, you know, I have the gift of gab, I guess.
As you're doing right now.
That's right.
So with that being said, we want to thank you so much, Mike and Susan, for joining us here on the Camper Report Show.